and it was talking about there was a prefabricated door factory, or sounded like there was some light manufacturing. Could you talk about that? Because I didn't really quite get that all squared away.
The door plant, it was there at Catoosa when I came back.
Okay.
They fabricated, and they still do, make their own doors, special order. They don't make their own doors, but they hang them, they hinge them, they hang them. They do special orders, and they do it all right there in the door shop. They hinge the doors. They make French door setups and all, front, the fancy front doors and the doors for the whole house. You can just special order them right there at the counter, and it goes to the door shop, and they manufacture what you need for your job.
I got you. That's interesting you say that. I'm actually sitting in my upstairs in my kids' room. They're at camp, and we live in an older house in Midtown Tulsa, and actually there was a door to the outside. Here, there's basically like what probably had been had at some point been like a little patio that's been kind of, we don't use it anymore. It's just a flat roof with a rubber cover on it. But the door, it's funny you say that, because when we wanted to try to improve the insulation on the house, the door is an older wood door, and the contractor was like, well, you're going to have to special order the door, because it is not like when you can't go to a Home Depot or just an off-the-shelf door, right? You have to then actually, that's what we were talking about. So now I know where to go. I go to Call It Used Lumber and have them fabricate the right, basically a better insulated door. That's interesting.
Yeah, they'll send their outside salesman out to measure it if you need.
Wow. Okay, that's that's probably a really great business, because I would imagine where there are tons of houses and doors they're not standard spaces.
Standard is an ugly word.
That comes from, I know what that is. That comes from many decades.
Standard is an ugly word, because older houses, sometimes, whoever added on a shotgun house or whatever, somebody added a door, and they, some old guy went out and took a piece of plywood or whatever and made a door and hung it, or maybe he cut a door down and hung it in that opening, and nothing is standard.
That's really interesting. Yeah. And I was just going to say, and that's probably a very, very good niche to be in terms of there's, the manufacturing is, it's not, probably, yes, it sounds like it's a very good niche business to be in. And is that the only fabrication that they do out at Cushing for the doors, or is there other things as well?
I don't know if they do engineered. I think they do engineered lumber there, like the not trusses, but the beams. I think when I was with the company, they did the beams there, engineered lumber. Now, I don't know if but they did.
And when you say engineered lumber, does that mean like lumber that would be a structural, like instead of like putting up a 2x4 for a wall, that would be something that would be a more substantial? More
for your ceiling.
Got it.
Your beam to if you watch the do-it-yourself shows, they knock down walls, and you got a load-bearing wall, and you may have to put in a beam to support that.
Got it.
And those that's a manufactured item.
Right.
Again, standard doesn't apply.
One of the stories I heard when I moved to Tulsa, I'm a big music fan, and somebody had said that Leon Russell had a house in Maple Ridge, so I kind of drove over there, and the person had told me where the lot was. He said there's 2 houses on it now, and I looked and I saw the 2 newer houses on it. And supposedly the story was that Leon wanted a studio in the basement or something, and the story was that like the contractor said, you can't take these posts out. They're load bearing, whatever. Like this is like structure. You can't take this out. And he said, I don't care. I want to take it out. And then it's sad. And they had to. It's sad. It was actually it was a 1920s era oil mansion probably that had to be taken down because I guess Yep, the exactly. It's just like in the middle of the house. Yeah, but that's I understand that. Like that heavier
if
lumber.
you can remove all those things if you have the engineered lumber or the beam to support. Those things hold a lot of weight.
Right. Yeah, there were a few more things I was going to try to bounce off you. And so when you walked in, can you tell me if I walked into a location just generally, like what would you see? Walk through the front doors, like what would be to the right, what would be to the left? I understand that the locations probably were different, but like what do you remember? Like you walk in the front door.
Well, today or back then?
Oh, well, back then when you started, it's fine.
When I started with the company, you walk in and the first thing you see on the right-hand side was a sales counter, and the guys were there writing tickets, and the showroom floor. You probably have a pallet of paneling. Back then, paneling was the going thing, and there were racks of molding, and there were gondolas or the shelving that had plumbing and electrical fittings and it evolved over the years. I mean, we had light fixtures, we had paint. We had paint that had the Hughes Lumber label on them.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the paint, the people we bought paint from, I can't remember what they call it. Anyway, we had our own label on some of the paint, not all of it.
Right.
But
right.
We sold a lot of paint back then. Paint and nails. You had nail bins. We weighed up nails at that time. You had a big bin and you had a scale, and we weighed up nails. We didn't know what box of 5-pound box or 1-pound box of nails was. The only nails we had in boxes were 50-pounders, and that was on the sales floor. And then if you behind the sales floor was the office. There were 2 offices, one for the manager and one for the checkup girl or the office girl. And then you go. They had big double swinging doors going out into the warehouse from the sales floor.
Yeah, it sounds like that that seems to have been the concept going way back. That was like that was sort of the holdover from the even before there was Hughes Lumber. That was sort of the original concept when they had the hardware store. It's like a little bit of everything. You could buy wood, you could buy barbed wire, you could buy bicycles they sold. It's interesting. They were sort of like what the customer just fit the customer's need, and insulation I imagine too was a big seller.
It was. Insulation wasn't in the showroom, but yeah, we sold a lot of insulation and a lot of lumber. We don't sell wood. My father-in-law used to say, "We don't sell wood. You burn wood. We sell lumber." That was what people come and say, "I want some wood." And he go, "Well, you're at the wrong place. You burn wood." So.
Yeah, you'll appreciate this as my in-laws are all native Oklahomans. So I'm gonna use that on them next time. They'll look at me and give me that nod like you're finally getting it, kid. Like whatever.
We don't burn lumber. We burn wood.
Exactly. So if I were do it yourself or it was 1980 and I came in and I said, "Oh, I want insulation," and would you all connect them up with contractors and be like, "Okay, I have a guy who could put the insulation in for you," or was that something you all did too, like recommend people?
No, we didn't have a lot of contractors back in the 80s. I mean, there might have been a few. We had a bulletin board, and guys that were do-it-yourselfers could come in and put their card up. But you had to be real careful about recommending people.
Right.
Because if somebody, if you recommended Joe Blow to do the insulation and he went in and made a mess of it, they're not going to go to Joe Blow. They're going to come back to Hughes Lumber. So
right. Why did you guys tell me this?
Recommending.
That makes a lot of sense, and does that continue all the way through to the end of your time with the company? There was not like I know sometimes there's like the big box stores will have these are our endorsed installers or something like that. Like, you know, there's like
Right.
2 or 3 companies in town that say, like, go
We
to this
never,
wood cut.
as far as I know, we never had